Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. I'm your host, Greg Head, and this week my guest is Sunando Bhattacharya, the co founder and former CEO of Apiculus. Sunando is an Indian founder in Delhi who, for a long time, had a services business in the cloud technology space for telecoms and data centers and built software out of that and grew that software business, Apiculus, and just recently sold that company successfully to a strategic acquirer, their largest Indian customer, who's building a very large business leveraging this technology. So, this is a story of an Indian founder moving from services to product to an acquisition and all the challenges and successes along the way. It's a great story from Sunando. And we're live with Sunando Bhattacharya, who's in India. I'm here in the States in Dallas. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, Sunando.
Hey, hi. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Lovely to
Yeah.
be here with you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're doing this on a Saturday. It's my Saturday morning, your Saturday night. This is what entrepreneurs do. It's just another day of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
Although you have a little different day of the week now. You had built your company over just about 10 years
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sold it. And now you're working for the Yotta data services that you sold your company to as an executive and so forth. Are you still working weekends like you
Yes, pretty
probably
much.
did in the old days?
Yeah, we just came back from a lunch with a prospective partner. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed much. Actually, I think I've got busier now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, is that common in India? I know you're in Delhi there.
Mm.
Is that common that, I don't know, the busy execs and entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
Indians, one of those reasons Indians are successful and heading companies all over the world, we work, I think, much harder than anybody else, maybe the
Yes.
Chinese and us.
Yes. Well, and you got your start in your career 20 years ago, right? Before it was obvious that India was a center
Right.
for software product development. And I mean, it was always
Yeah,
been
yeah.
services, but you've seen, I can't imagine, Sunanda, you've seen a transformation of India in 20 years,
Absolutely.
not just the technology side, but it's
I'm
amazing.
ancient. I've been working in tech for 26 years now. I
Yeah.
got into tech even before India was liberalized, and I saw
Yeah.
all the changes happening in front of me. And it's been an
Yeah.
amazing journey. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. So let's go back to you created a product, Apiculus, and the company
Yes.
was Indicus. I don't know if you changed your
Yeah.
name in there, but you built that, you grew it, and you sold it. It just closing a month ago or two, something like
Two
that?
months. Yeah. I think 2 months to
2 months.
date. I think 7th of October is when
Oh,
we
that's
closed.
right.
2 months to date. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. What was the Apiculus product?
Okay.
And then we'll go a little bit of the acquisition, then we'll go back to your journey of how you built that.
Sure, sure. So Epicurus was, you can think of it like Shopify for cloud service providers. It was a platform we would deploy with, companies like telcos and data center providers, anybody who wants to sell any kind of infrastructure as a service or platform as a service to other companies. So if you look at the global play in cloud today, you have the big guys, the Amazons, the Googles and Microsofts,
Right.
but all three put together, they're maybe in about 40 countries. About 100, and as per my last check, about 140 countries have laws around data localization, data residency, data privacy, and data is the new oil. So people want anything which is going up on the cloud. Governments want their critical data to be in country. So there's a lot of push from governments all over the world to bring the data in. So in smaller markets, which is not interesting enough or large enough for the hyperscalers, who are the probable cloud provider? It is the local telcos, the local data center guys. But they don't have the tech backbone. So you're giving them the entire technology stack and a complete
Right.
front end software platform. You can think of it like an ERP to run your cloud business, which
Right.
brings in all the CRM elements, the billing elements, and the complete customer lifecycle management, and deliver the whole thing in as a service model. So
Right.
that's essentially what Apiculus is.
Okay. So let me just get that. So you're in that kind of data center, telecom world in emerging markets, or
Primarily,
what do
we
you?
do have some customers in developed economies, but
Yeah.
largely emerging markets. Yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of going to the frontier, right? Where, the big guys won't. And you're
Absolutely.
making the software that if you've got, I don't know, in the Middle East, probably somebody funds a big data center, huge hardware stacks,
Mm.
probably
Absolutely.
$1 billion or something like that. They
Yeah.
use your software to make a Shopify like self-serve experience for
Absolutely.
companies and others to
Yeah.
set
Nowhere
up their
close to
own
$1 billion.
cloud and that kind of thing. What's
Nobody
that?
in these markets are investing $1 billion because the markets itself are not so
Okay,
large.
fair enough. Yes,
Yeah,
there we go.
it's maybe a few $1 million, and that's what we said that
Oh, okay, right.
we could get a cloud going in under $1 million investment, and that's the differentiator, right? So today, let me
With
you
with
tell
hardware is what we're saying.
with hardware,
Okay, wow.
less than $1 million of hardware, exactly.
Right.
So, see, when
Yeah.
you think about cloud, you think about these big ass data centers,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
you
Yeah.
think about all the big spends. But actually, if you look at markets, so let me tell you a story about a small country in Asia called Nepal. I think if you
Yeah.
look at the development index, it is one of the most poorest. It was one of the poorest countries in Asia, and
Yeah.
we set up the first cloud in Nepal with one of the
Wow.
local partners, which is a local data center company called Data Hub, way back in 2018. And this was
Yeah.
right after the big earthquake in Nepal, which shook up the
Yes.
entire
Yeah.
country. And from there, today, not just Data Hub is one of the dominant players. There are seven other providers in that market. The market has really opened up. A lot of the work that we did actually has been transformative in those countries because we were typically the
Right.
first cloud provider in that market, and we would
Oh,
partner
wow.
with a local company. And that really sort of, I think, the biggest impact we have made in, I would say, 8 to 10 countries, where we really moved the needle and got people to start adopting cloud. Think of these countries being tech from a technology adoption standpoint 10 to 15 years behind the US, and
Oh, yeah.
even 5 to 10 years behind a country like India. So we are talking about really leapfrogging the journey for them and enabling them to bring that technology, develop a startup ecosystem around that infrastructure, and go
Yeah.
from there.
So there's these, let's say, data center entrepreneurs in these emerging markets, and you work with them to provide the software on top of the hardware so they
Yeah.
can, so companies and,
Mm.
maybe software companies can
Yeah.
sign up and
Yeah.
get a data cloud as a service,
Absolutely.
provisioned and
Absolutely.
set up and configured and the whole
Yeah.
management. You're the software. Would you call
Yeah.
that white
Absolutely.
label software?
Yeah, it was completely white label, so our brand
Yeah.
was invisible to the end user.
Yeah.
So if you look at the key, ingredients to build a cloud service, you need obviously data centers to host them. You need
Right.
very good connectivity, network services, and for the company which is building this, they also need to be finally selling it to enterprise customers. So they should ideally already have an enterprise business where they're either selling internet services, network services, some kind of B2B services.
Okay.
So
Right.
that's how we sort of narrowed down to a prospect, anybody who had telecom assets on ground, who had some kind of B2B services, because in a lot of markets you'll have telecom companies, but they would be
Yeah.
purely B2C. So you would never go
Uh-huh.
after them. We would always look at customers or companies who were
Ah,
targeting the B2B segment. So, and then, sort of help them build that entire stack. It started with a consulting engagement, then moved on
yeah.
to a complete services
Okay.
and software engagement.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in the journey here. So, how big did the company get before you sold it to Yotta this year?
We were north of, I would say, $1.5 million of revenue. If you look at our journey while we were an 11-year-old company, we went through a few pivots, and this latest pivot is about, I would say, 3 to 4 years old. So that's the
Yeah.
time period in which we sort of build this revenue.
Okay.
And
Great.
100% bootstrap, no funding, not no spending on marketing, very very innovative guerrilla style, reach out ABM kind style marketing, and
Right.
that's how we did it.
Awesome. Well, a lot of Indian software companies build in rupees and sell in dollars, right? They can
Right,
get to the
right.
States or Europe and so forth, and or they sell in India. But you were an Indian software company. You sold in emerging markets around the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Yeah. Can you say how much you sold the company for to Yotta? I know it was a
Unfortunately,
strategic acquisition. It wasn't
yeah,
just they wanted that amount of revenue. You
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you won a pretty big prize.
I cannot talk the number
Yeah.
because I'm under NDA, being a strategic exit, and my acquirers are
And
getting
employer.
listed on the stock exchange very soon.
Yeah.
But what I can definitely talk about is we've got a very handsome multiple on our revenue. It's a two-digit multiple,
Yeah.
But at the same point of time, we were not acquired for our revenue. Our
Yeah.
product, our team, our platform was very strategic in nature for Yotta. They are going big now. I should say we are going big in this business, and the kind of contracts they have in hand, the kind of business they are looking to build, both in the traditional cloud space and the AI cloud space. I
Yeah.
think
Here we go.
I think this was very, very critical for them to close out this piece and get a very strong engineering technology team in house.
So, and Yotta is an Indian company. Were they a customer of yours?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
they were one of our early adopters. I think we went
Okay.
GA with our product sometime in November 19, and we signed a contract with them. I think within the first 6 months.
Okay. Wow. And is their goal to continue your emerging market strategy, or did they buy you
Absolutely,
to expand in India and build a massive
both,
private
both.
cloud kind of thing? Yeah.
Both, both. So Yotta
Okay.
has global ambitions. They want not just want to be one of the leading cloud players in India, but
Right.
also continue building globally. We are already in talks with multiple partners outside India, again in emerging markets and some in
Yeah.
even developed markets, to build large either AI clouds or traditional clouds.
Right. So I'm hearing the story of services and pivoting and finding this market and going to the frontier.
Right.
And just at the moment of, well, as the cloud technology, cloud as a service took off, and now AI is coming, and strategic acquirers said, we're already big and as a
Mm,
listed company in India. We need this technology, and they're
mm.
going to make a massive business out of this. So they paid you a handsome premium for your company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
God has been kind.
Yeah, well, good for you. So
Yeah.
it's what most founders, practical founders, dream of, which is we'll be really important to somebody, and they'll pay us
Yeah.
a crazy multiple and so forth, as opposed to a multiple of profits or
Mm.
revenues, that's more modest. But congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
that deal just finished. I know it was announced technically in November, closed in October,
Mm.
just months ago. Like, how does it
Absolutely.
feel, Sunando?
It feels great actually. While we talk about the journey, we have had some pretty crazy lows not so long back, and
Yeah.
suddenly to come out of that, and and this whole thing happened so quickly.
Oh,
As
right.
such deals typically I hear take 6 months. We
Yeah.
closed everything in 3 months, end to end.
This closed in
It's
3 months.
crazy. Under three
Yeah.
months, yeah, under three
Under 3
months,
months.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
So
they
that
really wanted you, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah, and I
yeah,
think it was a
not a lot
great
of
fit. I think we also were looking to go into maybe roll up into something bigger and try building
yeah,
faster and quicker, for a larger market. And so I think it's just the meeting of minds, meeting
yeah,
of purpose more than anything else. I think that's really what's got
right.
us going together so fast.
Can I ask whether it was a cash deal, whether your bank
Yeah, so
account has received the
it's an
prize?
all cash deal, obviously
Yeah.
with a staggered payout depending on some deliverables. But yeah,
Okay, so you're still working for Yotta, and you
yeah, yeah,
had a co-founder along the way,
yeah,
Shiv,
yeah,
and so forth. You didn't have any investors, so, the
yeah.
co-founders did really well, you
Absolutely,
and
and
Shiv.
we had
Yeah.
stock options also for some of the early team members. They also cashed out pretty well. Yeah,
So you got some crazy people to follow you, 2 crazy people into the frontier, right? The cloud someday everybody's gonna be doing this and, everybody's shaking
yeah,
their
yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had so one of my team members. He was my first employee. He was with us from 2014. Another guy who was there till about 6 months before the deal happened. He left and he's come back now.
Okay.
So I think one thing in India which I've seen work very well is that faith, trust, loyalty, whatever you want to call it.
Ah, yeah.
When you enjoy a certain work environment, you want to be a part of that, and
Right.
that's something we have kept. I think one of the challenges I see in a lot of startups in India, especially those that raise big capital, very
Yeah.
soon the environment gets very toxic. It's just numbers and nothing else. The
Yeah.
emotions go away.
Yeah.
You're spending more time with your colleagues than your family in many cases, and you don't really form those bonds. In our case, it was very different. We are a very
Yeah.
tight bonded family, and everybody knew everybody. Even when we went remote, we kept in touch. We would do open houses every week,
Yeah.
just catch up, and and that culture I think really helped us, survive and scale and just get along. Yeah,
Well, isn't that the irony? And it's one of the things about being a practical founder. People say, isn't it brutal to bootstrap a company and run a services business and try to get this product business and go through all those ups and downs without capital and help and everything? Isn't that harder? But if you
I
can
would.
do it, you can actually
Hmm.
create something that's more healthy that for the employees, for customers, for the
Hmm.
business, right? You're doing kind of the right things along the way and you're not, you know, induced to
Yeah.
go crazy.
Yeah, it's catch 22 because you want to get
Yeah.
to market faster because you have a limited runway.
Yeah.
But at the same point of time, you know that even if you make a mistake, you have time to, correct
Uh-huh.
it and, move on.
Uh-huh.
And, from day one, I think we just took it not so tough on us that we'll take it easy. We'll go. We never set some crazy targets that we'll double our
Yeah.
revenue every year. And we just were focusing on certain specific outcomes, certain specific inputs. Even a 20-30% growth rate was okay for us, which a lot of people told us that we are crazy, we are not ambitious enough.
Yeah.
And I said I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think at this stage of life I have other priorities. I have my family. All of
Yeah.
us, all the three founders, are in our 40s, so we need to take care of multiple things along with our business is just one of the things in our life, not the only thing. Yeah.
Well, Delhi is a huge city, and
Yeah.
you are you from Delhi, by the way?
Yeah, I'm born and brought up in Delhi. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a huge ecosystem there for tech founders. Did you face
Absolutely.
that resistance that we see in Silicon Valley and New York and London that says if you're a serious founder, you need to raise VC funding and play that funding game, or
Yeah.
is that not as common in Delhi?
No, it is, and we did get caught up in that
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
story for some time. But then very soon we realized that our business is not cut out. We are too niche. We cannot scale. Metrics are very different. Our markets are very different. So we said that let's just not go down that lane. We took a very
Yeah.
conscious decision. It's not that we haven't tried to raise capital. We even had got term sheets from investors at a couple of stages, but then
Yeah.
they had crazy terms and we said no to them. So we said that
Right.
we can't work like that. So
Right. Well, sometimes this we want to grow and prove it and get ready. And then sometimes there's a growth spurt when the market's ready that you could raise capital. But
mm.
you literally sold the company to somebody who could hyperscale this.
Yeah,
Is that a version of this? That like Yotta is the way to deliver your vision
absolutely.
to the world at scale?
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yotta not just will become a user of the software, but also will become a large, platform provider. And Yotta will
Right.
bring in some elements that we couldn't fund off our books,
There you go.
wherein if I have to do an end-to-end story. So today, in some countries, we are talking about something I would like to call concrete to cloud, where my partner in
Wow.
that country just has land and he wants to build
Wow.
300 megawatt data center and offer cloud and AI services.
Right.
There is no single partner in the world who can do it end to end with him. I think
Uh-huh.
we're the only company we can do that.
Right.
Yotta has a real estate legacy.
Yeah.
Promoters are come from a large real estate background, Hiranandani Group.
Right.
So we can build state of the art data centers, as we built a couple of them in India, and then bring in all the tech stack thereafter, the
Mm,
infrastructure, the platform, AI services, everything,
right.
and then
Cloud
leverage
as a
the
service
scale.
as a service.
Everything as a service. Everything as a service. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
so so those kind of things obviously we could never do as Indicus or Apiculus. Now those possibilities open up. So the kind of conversations have suddenly
Yeah,
changed, especially when I'm
yeah,
talking to customers outside India.
right. How does that feel? Now, I presume you're still running your business unit
No,
there
actually
or
I've taken over the
oh,
complete. I'm now the CRO for Yotta, so I run the entire business for Yotta.
oh, is
So
that right?
yeah. So
How's that going so far? No wonder you're working Saturdays.
so it's interesting. The conversations are very different. I have a very large sales team. I have almost
Yeah,
80 people
here
in
we
my
go.
sales team, and
How
uh,
big is your sales team?
80 people,
And how big was your company?
50 people.
50 people. So
Yeah,
isn't that interesting?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll check back in a year and see how you're doing with the big company stuff. Is a public company in India, right? And all of
It's going
that.
to be.
So,
It's not yet
oh, it's going
public.
to
It's
be
going to
public.
be public and going to be listed
Okay.
in US in Nasdaq. Yeah,
Okay, great. Well, that's very exciting. What a big mission here.
yeah.
Yeah, you could see, like, if you say, I'm creating this, I'm doing this in
Mm,
Nepal, and someday it'll be big, right? You're starting in the way with the far corners, and you could build a very big thing. This could be a
absolutely. No,
massive company.
I
Yeah.
could. I'm quite sure we will build. I have seen. We have all the ingredients that we need. It's just just execution. It's just about execution.
Okay, all that stuff.
Yeah,
So, because you're this chief revenue officer now of this growing company with 80 salespeople, you're more of a business founder, aren't you, Sunando? You're
absolutely.
not the technical founder. I
Yeah.
guess Shiv Kumar was
Absolutely.
the your
So,
coder guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
interestingly, neither Shiv nor I come from an engineering background. Typically, when
interesting.
you talk to startup founders in India, first thing you'll hear they're from some
Yeah,
IIT or
yeah,
some
yeah.
big college. Neither of us are, but both of us have very strong tech inclination. I've always worked in tech in my career. 15 years before I started Indicus, all my career is in tech. So, same for Shiv. And
Yeah.
Shiv and I go back 2 decades, so we were colleagues since long back. So when we decided to start up, it was very clear. We had very clear responsibilities. I will take care of everything non-tech. He'll take care of everything tech. That's as simple as that. Yeah,
And does Shiv have a new role at the company that's pretty senior?
absolutely. He's the chief innovation officer. He's leading the entire engineering DevOps there. Yeah,
Okay. So you could almost say they acquired your company also and paid a big premium to get you guys on the team who had proven how to
yeah.
build things.
I would like to believe that. Yeah,
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. We'll see how it goes in a year, right, or two.
yeah,
That's really amazing. All right. Let's go back to your journey and how you got into this business and found your way and grew up this company. It was a journey there, which is pretty
absolutely.
typical of practical founders. They don't just start and get funding and then it's big. You spent a decade in, let's say, managed IT services business or
Yeah,
something like that.
15 years. I think
Okay.
15 years before I started Indicus in 2013.
Yeah.
I was working in small and large tech services companies, and my last stint was with NTT, where
Hmm.
I was running a large piece of their cloud business in India. And that's
Right.
honestly where I saw the potential
Yes.
of cloud and
Yeah.
saw that this is something that looks to be becoming big, and why not get out and try to build. Initially, obviously, we didn't even know what a startup was or what a product idea was. We just said, let's build a strong services business here. In India,
Okay.
if you're in tech, services is big. You can
Yeah.
make a lot of
Uh-huh.
money there. So we said, let's try to build that. Let's try to build a advanced technology services business.
Hmm.
So we started out partnering with Citrix at that point of time. Citrix had just acquired a company out of UK called Cloud.com. Cloud.com founders went on to then found Rancher, which they sold to Suze, and now they're on to something else.
Right.
So Citrix were looking for some cloud advisory partners in Asia to work with on cloud deals in this region, sort
Hmm.
of consult, deploy, etc. So we said, great, we can do that for you. So we started with them. We got onto a couple of projects. There was a large project with Sri Lanka Telecom that we did, where we went in and saw the product that they were deploying. And honestly, it was a pretty shitty product what they
Yeah.
had acquired. So there were two
Yeah.
products that they acquired. One was called Cloud Stack, which they open sourced under Apache
Hmm.
Foundation. It's now called Apache Cloud
Wow.
Stack. Cloud
Yep.
Stack still is the core heart of everything that we do. That's a solid cloud platform.
So
You would have
open
heard of
source software at your
open source
core of
software.
your technology. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So like your
interesting.
OpenStack is a name everybody has heard of.
Yeah.
Cloud Stack is like OpenStack, but far more simple to deploy, simple to manage. So we stuck with Cloud Stack for over a decade now, and it has an amazing community, great users,
Okay.
including one of the big five runs their private cloud on Cloud Stack. So that was the product we liked, but there was another product which they had, which was essentially being used for cloud billing, which was horrible. And we realized that there is a huge possibility here, given that both Shiv and I come from a managed services, IT services background, and we knew exactly the challenges that service providers face in running a managed IT services business. Let's go and try and build something here. But we didn't have any developers with us. We just had software,
Yeah.
DevOps engineers who were doing
Right.
projects. We said we'll have to hire people. While Shiv had a development background, but we didn't have any other team members. So the thought we had is, let's find a customer first before we actually build the product. And we were very lucky to have that. One of the largest telcos in India, which is Airtel, they had a division which is called Nextra. They still have that division, which is their data center. That
Mhm.
was being headed by an Australian guy at that point, Neil Pollock, and they had just burned their hands with HP trying to build a large
Uh-huh.
cloud, and they were now looking for a smaller partner. So somebody introduced us to Neil, and Neil met us and said, "Okay, what do you guys have to show?" I said, "We have nothing, but what we can definitely do for you is take you guys through a small workshop and sort of run through our idea and our understanding of the space. And then, if you like what you hear, then we can talk further." So we did a
Yeah.
free 3-day workshop for their entire management team,
Wow.
understood what they are looking for, pointed out some challenges in how they are trying to approach the problem and our path, our solution path. And he loved what he saw. A week later, he gave us a $150,000 contract. So that's how we sort of
To go build this on
to go
top of
build
the
this. Yeah,
OpenStack.
yeah. But
Okay.
the good part was that we ensured that we didn't give the IP to them. It was not a for
Yeah. Yeah.
contract software build. It was something we would build for them as version one, but the IP remains ours, and then we can sell it to other customers. So that's
I'm
how
sure
we
there's other
sold our
parts with there's if there's a good part, there's other parts too. But yeah, I get
yeah.
it. So
So we sold our software even before writing our first line of code. And
right.
then we said we'll build it in 6 months. Obviously, nothing gets done in 6 months.
Yeah.
Finally, I think 9 months we delivered version one. As
Hmm.
usual, every version one is shitty. So was our software.
Yeah.
We had a good UI, but everything else behind was clunky and slow and a lot of the logic. So we took a very conscious call that let's sort of continue building with Airtel only and not onboard any other customer. But fortunately, unfortunately, in that 6 months, we had signed on two more customers. So that's it. Three customers, we'll build the software. This was 2016. So from
Yeah.
2016 to 2019, we didn't sign
Yeah.
on a single new customer. So one side, we
Right.
had our services business going. We were doing DevOps projects, cloud deployment projects for customers in India,
So
outside
you still
India.
had a service business,
Absolutely,
right? So
absolutely.
that's why you had two names. Indicus was the service business, and you had this new Apiculus product in there,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Apiculus wasn't even born then. That time we used to call
Oh,
it
okay.
some silly name. We used to call it Open Cloud Rack Manager, something like that. So,
Right.
but it was all
Did you
Indicus.
sell that as a product initially? Sometimes technology is wrapped into a service contract.
Yeah. So no, we didn't sell it as a product back then. It was wrapped into a services contract.
Yeah.
So as I said, we didn't even know the whole concept of productization and
Yeah.
startups and all that. We were just trying to build something of value. So next 3 years we sort of built with a very small team. I think we're just 7 developers, and uh,
Yeah.
if you look at the whole spectrum of the product promise, it's right from the time a customer signs up, you have to show him the entire catalog, you have to understand various product segmentation. So whatever a CRM would do, all those features would be there. Initially, we partnered with a third-party billing software, but we very soon realized that won't cut the ice. So we wrote our own billing end to end, and then
Wow.
billing is a
Yeah, so
challenge.
you started to slay the monster, like, this whole integrated system is not a small feat.
Absolutely. So that's why it
Right.
took 3 years for it to come out, and then I think October 19 is when Shiv said finally, I think we are now ready to onboard more customers. So that's when we
Yeah,
sort of said our product is GA and let's start
yeah.
hunting for more customers. As luck would have it, 5 months down the line, we had COVID. And till then, our modus operandi, even in our services business, was we had a few good partners. We were selling through some very large companies like IBM and Tata, and these are all partners who
So
would sort
they
of
helped you go to market, right,
build a
with their
market. Yeah,
representation and bring you in
absolutely.
and all of that, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we
yeah,
would sort of go with them to industry events, meet up with prospective customers, and sort of sign them on and get them onboarded. Everything
right.
vanished overnight, no events. All these partners started focusing on their core business, so nobody would even take our calls. What next? What's
At
new?
during COVID, yes, everybody
Right during
yeah,
COVID, right?
contracted, right? It was
In
no more
in
new experiments.
yeah, and all this happened like 2 weeks. It was not very long. In just 2 weeks, everything vanished, and I think we started in 13, and this
Hmm,
was 2020. It was 7 years. I think for the first time, I started doubting, as in whether we are in the right
yeah,
place. So that was the time when we sort of did our second pivot. First pivot was moving from pure services to building a product, but this was not really a product pivot. It was more of a GTM pivot.
uh,
So we left the legacy style of selling and we started adopting the modern SaaS way of selling at this
uh-huh,
point of time. So we met
right.
up with, there's this large Indian
Was that, let's
SaaS.
say, Sunando, out of desperation or, the
Yeah,
realization, something like that?
yeah, yeah. So I was already part of large startup community called the SLP, Startup
Mm,
Leadership Program. And around this time, I also got in touch with another SaaS community called SaaS Boomi. They're pretty big in India and US.
Yeah, right.
And through some of the SaaS Boomi founders, we learned the concept of account based marketing. They told us your problem is very simple. You have a very finite set of customers. Your entire universe
Yeah,
is
just go get them.
5,000 customers, so it's not large. So you just have to get them on a list and build a strategy, build cohorts, and go out and sell. Do very specific kind of selling. And
Right.
we said, great, sounds very easy. Let's try and execute. So till 2020, we didn't even know of HubSpot. We got our first HubSpot account
Yeah.
in, I still remember, I think in June 2020. We did our first sales and marketing hire. We hired an ABM executive at that point. And then we sort of started doing small experiments. Okay, let's try something here, let's try something there. And it took us, I think, almost 4 to 5 quarters, 15 months
Yeah.
to finally sort of hit a sweet spot. Okay, this kind of messaging is working. This is the kind of story we should go and tell. This is the first level of outreach. This is how we should
Right.
reach out. This is the process we should follow.
This week's podcast is sponsored by my friends at Cypress Growth Capital. My favorite milestone for practical SaaS founders is after you've survived the first few crazy years and you have some repeatable sales and a growing team and perhaps a little profit showing up. You know you could grow faster with a little outside capital, but the thought of raising money from VCs would change your whole game. And we know VC funding is the most expensive growth capital on the planet. That's why so many practical SaaS founders I know have partnered with Cypress Growth Capital when they hit that predictable growth inflection point. For 15 years, Cypress has provided non-dilutive growth funding to bootstrap SaaS founders, including many of the successful founders I've had on this podcast. They love practical founders. Cypress provides enough patient capital for you to invest in your growth without giving up any of your precious equity or having to guarantee a loan personally. Their investment team has people like you who have grown and sold successful software and technology companies, and their operational and entrepreneurial experience helps them give you strategic guidance at those key inflection points in your business. So go to cypressgrowthcapital.com/practical and learn more, and contact Cliff Santel at Cypress to see if there's a fit. Now back to our podcast.
The good part, and what ensured we survived those 15 months, I think we added just one customer in 15 months, was that all our existing customers grew massively in those 15 months. Because moment COVID hit, cloud adoption went through the roof. Everybody wanted to shut down their small servers in their offices and move everything to some cloud provider. So all my customers sort of grew massively during that phase. And since our billing was linked to the capacity being utilized in their cloud, our billing went up with all our existing customers. So thankfully, during COVID, we didn't cut any salaries, we didn't fire anybody, we didn't need to. The business was, you know, growing organically, and it helped us sustain to that period.
And you were a lean company. You never really had overhired and had to
Absolutely,
contract.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So 2021, mid 21 is when we sort of again started going out in that SaaS like model, running
Yeah.
the ABM campaigns. And 2021 till date, I think we have onboarded almost 20 customers. And for us, each customer average is $100,000 ACV.
Yeah.
So large
Yeah.
deals. These deals take time. I've had scenarios where from the time I got signed an LOI with the customer, closure of contract is 6 months because too many hoops to jump through, too many security clearances. We're talking about operating cloud in pretty tough markets like Saudi Arabia. So there, the sort of stuff we need to do to get a cloud going, it's pretty long. So the gestation period took some time, but
Yeah.
the revenue started ramping up from new customers pretty massively at that point of time.
Well, I guess that's the challenge, right? You're more in emerging markets in these
Mm,
faraway places and they're starting small.
yeah.
But this is really core to the business. Somebody's got a business and they really need your software. Otherwise, they can't deliver cloud
Yeah.
services,
I
right?
think
So
I think that
you're,
the because the entry is so challenging, that automatically becomes a moat for our business. Even
yes.
for our customers to switch, it's a huge cost. And for a new
Yes.
entrant to come and, fix these things and get it going, meet the security compliances, it's just crazy. So that became
Well,
our moat.
speaking of crazy, Sunando here, this is to build a company and to be successful transitioning from services to product in India and go to emerging markets and eventually sell it and be strategic and all of that. You can look at where you are now and, say, oh, yeah, it was easy or
Mhm.
whatever. But like, you're abnormal and you're doing some
Yeah,
crazy things here that people don't do. I mean, you had the patience and slowly made these pivots, right? These changes.
absolutely.
Did your services business sustain you through those slow changes? Like you always had services or how
Always,
did that
always.
go?
We were a services company. Even till the day
Yeah.
we sold, we had services as part of our deliverable. Earlier, services was sort of complementary to what we were doing. As we grew, services sort of
Yeah.
became integral to our delivery and our whole
Right.
product. So it was a services-led product business, and then we transitioned to a product-led services business.
So you had product with services to help implement
Absolutely,
and
yeah,
probably you educated, here's what you do to launch and
yeah,
build in the
exactly.
phases and
So
the whole project.
yeah,
Right.
so if you look at large financial companies, like companies who sell core banking software, you have
Right.
Indian names like Infosys or Oracle,
Yeah, sure.
and when they do large core banking deals, they will also sell a ton of services for
Of course.
customization, for management, etc. So we essentially adopted that model, that this is a not an easy software for you to run. You need a lot of support on running the whole stack, running the service, delivering it as a product to your end customer. So why don't we
Right.
give you a one-stop shop? So what we told our customers, you give us hardware and you don't need to talk to any other vendor. We are the only
Uh,
partner for you. We'll do it end to end. We'll give you the stack. We'll give you the
right.
software. We'll run it for you also.
Oh, so it's literally managed. Uh,
Absolutely. So
oh,
you can think of it like an on-prem PaaS, platform as a service. So everything is running in the customer's data center, but the
right.
customer is hands off. We do it. We run it end to end. We monitor. We manage it end to end.
Isn't that interesting? And you had an early start in the managed IT services, which
Yeah.
is kind of a productized, done for you kind of thing. We'll do it for you.
Exactly.
It's almost a SaaSified service or something like
Exactly.
that. It's nudging towards that way, but you're helping them deliver cloud as a service to
Yeah.
them. That's really interesting.
My pitch was very simple, and it was to I would never sell to the technology, the CTOs and the CIOs of the company. I would always sell to the CEOs and the chief business officers that I
Right,
am taking away your technology risk completely. You just need to deploy hardware and give the network, and everything else is taken care by us. And not
that's
only
great.
that, we would, given our understanding of the business, we also had a small consulting piece which we would give free of cost, where we would sort of help them build the entire business side of things, help them productize, create a marketing campaign, even
Yeah.
help them sell in their markets, because
Yes.
our revenues are completely linked to their growth. So if they
Yeah.
don't grow,
Okay.
our revenue is flat from the customer. So our for us, customer success was not about making them use our software. It was enabling them to sell services of our platform. Until unless that happens, they don't grow and we don't grow. So our entire
Yeah.
customer success model was an assisted sales and marketing support.
Well, it's
It
kind of
still
an
is.
anti-technology approach. You're not
Yeah,
selling them products.
yeah,
You're selling them a business result all the way through the products that
absolutely. It's
we will
outcome.
help you
Which
build a
is
10 million, $3 million business that will grow into a $10 million business and
exactly,
so forth.
exactly. My first
Interesting.
pitch was never a technical proposal. I would always start with a business case. That in 5 years, if this is the market size we estimate, this is where you will reach, and that's how we would make a sale. Obviously, we learned it through iteration. We didn't
Yeah,
get there on day one, but we
right,
realized that this is the only way to sell our platform, because we have to promise the outcome and deliver that outcome.
right. Well, you could imagine in the long run, I don't know if this is what Yotta is thinking, but
Mm.
if you know how to go to an emerging market, assess the market, say this is how you deliver, and we have the software and we'll manage it for you. All you need is the land and the hardware and the data center. You could kind of get into the land and hardware and data center business and build your own
Yeah, but
world there. But
I think it's always better to partner with a local
okay,
provider, because they understand the system, the culture, they have the connects. So it's always 1 + 1 11 in these. All
right,
you always remember, emerging markets are regulated. They are tough to break into.
right, okay, there you go.
It's a very relationship driven market. So
Right.
rather than trying to do it alone, I think it's better that, especially in these kind of markets, you go with a partner.
Okay.
You share the spoils.
Well,
You bring in the technology expertise, and they will do the rest.
that's amazing. So, did you think you would end up in this place, like, everybody clapping in the Delhi ecosystem for this product founder who was the reluctant service, moved slowly, pivoted slowly, never let go of services, got off the drug, but you have that's a clear and powerful approach and business model using open source software. But did you have a vision of creating a product company and winning big, or did you just want to solve problems and keep going
Yeah.
and it turned
So,
into this?
there's a saying in startup world: jump off the cliff and build the parachute on your way down. I think
Yeah, I
that's
see
what
that.
we did. We sort of jumped off. The services was our glider, and then the parachute sort of helped us land. So honestly, until unless till we started interacting with startup founders and the community, this whole idea of building a platform and
Right.
exiting and achieving creation of wealth
Yeah.
was never there. For us, when we started it was more of a lifestyle business, as the term goes in the industry. And we said that we'll build it. I was already in my late 30s, so build a business, run it for 20 years, retire rich, something like that. As we sort of when we pivoted to the product side, we realized that if we build something of significance that creates impact, definitely there's a wealth creation opportunity. When it will happen, how it will happen, we are not sure. and
Right.
and it's been a tough journey, because our
Yeah.
growth rate has not been like, we're not growing, doubling our revenues every year. Every time something good will happen, there would be some other challenge, something will go away. We'll have a customer churn, somebody would decide to not continue with the business and just close down. Like, in a couple of markets, our partners just couldn't scale, even with all the support we gave to them. They just
Ah,
couldn't find, especially in Africa, we faced that problem that
yeah.
they couldn't scale the market. We still
Yeah, so
couldn't
you
figure
took
out
a
how.
little market risk, a little
Mm.
partner risk in there. So some of your turn was partners just not able to get the business going.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in a
Okay.
year, so while we had 5-year contracts with them, they would shut down the business in 2 years. So
Mm.
those challenges were there, and we've been at it for 11 years. So honestly, it was getting a bit tiring. And I mean, we're pretty candid here. There were times when we were stressed like hell. There was one incident I clearly remember that one of the leading software bodies in India is called NASSCOM, and they have a very
Mm.
prestigious award which is called the Emerge 50 Awards. And within the Emerge 50, where they award the recognized top 50 product startups in the country, there's something called League of 10, which is the top 10 best
Oh,
startups. So
wow.
we
That's
hit
huge.
that very early. So while we were building our software in 2015, 16, 17, we were selected for that. So this
Wow.
is, I remember it so distinctly. This is November 2017, 1st of November, we were there receiving the award. And Shiv and I were discussing that it's salary day and we don't have enough money in the bank
Yeah.
even to pay the salaries.
Yeah.
So in 3 hours, we receive a refund from the tax authorities, which we were not expecting. And that's how we made salary that day, that month.
Oh my goodness.
So these kind of things, it's not just one time. Such things have happened, I think, 4 or 5 times, where once a customer paid us double advance, and that's how we made salary that month.
Right.
So bootstrapping is not easy. It's tough. It's
Yeah.
all about
Yeah.
managing cash flows. You're not sitting on a big pile of cash at any point
Right.
of time, because you're always pushing for growth, right?
Yeah.
Every surplus dollar or rupee that you have, you're looking, okay, let me hire a developer, let me hire an engineer, let me hire a sales guy. Just push harder and harder and see how it can grow. So that really
Did
takes
you view it that way, that your revenue was your customer sales was funding?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It was entirely, we put some initial money, and then Shiv and I would bring in personal money just to support the cash flow, and obviously take it out
Yeah.
as and when the cash flow could
Yeah.
afford us taking it out. There were months where we wouldn't take our, we were anyway on subsistence salaries, and there were months we didn't take our salaries even, just to ensure the business was moving forward. So
Mhm.
that's tough. So for for it to happen, we were very happy that we got this outcome at this stage. Honestly, I think we could have, had we continued for another 3 years, we were at a point where we could have seen a much larger outcome. But we took a
Yeah.
conscious call that we found the right partner.
Right.
I think our interests are aligned, so let's do it at this point. Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of timing in there, which other people would say luck, but you were in the managed IT services business. You saw cloud come up. You started to get into that. the moment that cloud was going, right, that you were there, right, in the front line,
Absolutely.
seeing that
Yeah.
cloud and private cloud and country specific
Mm.
cloud and all of that was really important. So you were ready and you already had
Absolutely.
some
Yeah.
experience to go after it and open source tools. But there's also a timing game around acquiring a partner, right? I'm getting a
Absolutely.
deal
Yeah.
now. Do
I
I
think
wait and grow bigger? Yeah.
you are at the right place at the right time, at the right size for
Yeah.
Yotta to come in and acquire us. I think
Right.
it was just absolutely timing. Our luck was our timing. I would say in this entire
Yeah. Yeah.
transaction, the
Right.
luck was our timing.
Right. And you had the sustainability, as tough
Mm,
as it was, to wait for that luck, to build a little luck, to be ready when it came up and
mm.
all of that. Let's talk about the acquisition of your company, by Yotta. Did you have many customers in India? I know they're an
No,
Indian take. Okay.
thankfully no, because then
Yeah.
that would have been a challenge. We had one more customer, and they were much smaller, and they were okay with working alongside with
Okay.
Yotta. Most of our
So
customers,
Yotta was a customer. They were
yeah,
using your software and your service to build
absolutely,
a cloud
yes,
service in
yes,
their yeah. Are they a
yeah.
telecom or is that a data center
They're a
company?
data center company.
Okay.
They pure play data center and services company, data services company. So interestingly, we have been working with Yotta since 2020. A couple of years back, they thought of building their own software. They partnered with another company for that and tried to build it for 2 years. Then they didn't get the desired outcome over there.
Mhm.
And so then they approached us. They had won some large government contracts, which
Right.
now we are delivering jointly, and they needed a good platform to deliver those contracts, and we were ready, and that's how it all happened pretty fast.
Well, this happens to practical founders. We don't hear about it much, right? We think about private equity backed exits that are pretty
Mm,
common here on the podcast for practical founders. We think about strategic getting acquired by some big software company, a bigger software company and adding to their stack and that kind of thing. But literally, you were acquired by a customer that has big ambitions and
correct.
needed your software to power their business. Are they trying to serve all the emerging markets that you're trying to serve as well, or are
Yeah,
they trying to build a really big business in India with your
their
technology?
primary goal is to build a really big business in India. So they have a
Okay.
lot of focus on getting the government cloud business. That's a pretty large
Okay,
business. So
which would be
today,
huge.
what we are building in Yotta is one would be when it's ready, will be one of the largest gov clouds outside of US and EU.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's something that's the core focus. My team is sort of championing that. So that's where we are. Then Yotta also wants to take on the hyperscalers within India. So we are building
Mhm,
an enterprise cloud within Yotta,
mhm.
primarily to deliver AI and general compute services also. So it may not have the breadth of services that a hyperscaler does. It won't have 200 services, but it'll have all the core infrastructure and platform services that maybe even for AWS constitute 70-80% of their revenues, but go deep in them and deliver them at hyperscale. So
Got it.
that's the bet that we are taking
Get it.
within India. And then outside India, already, as I said, we are in, oh sorry, I didn't talk about it, we are in, as Indicus or Apiculus, we are in 17 countries.
Yeah.
Yota also has a lot of ambitions in partnering with
Yeah.
providers outside India, so
Right.
you're sort of building that business in parallel.
Well, you sound like an experienced senior executive of a significant cloud technology company in India.
Mm.
So literally 6 months ago or a year ago, you were not anywhere near this
Yeah.
acquisition in this new role, and this is like 6 months old, 3 months old?
1 year ago, I was clinically depressed
Yeah.
because I had gone through a pretty tough phase, me and my co-founders. We
Yeah.
had been approached by this British company who were looking to build a global cloud business,
Yeah.
and they were looking to invest in us with the intent to acquire. So they were putting in,
Yeah.
I think, $6 or $9 million into Indicus, and then build it. We had to build it to a certain scale in 3 years, and they would give us a certain multiple exit at that point.
Mhm.
Everything was done. They did a due diligence. They signed all the contracts, SSA, SHA, everything got signed, and then they vanished.
Really?
So we signed everything, I think, in February, March 2023. They told us the money would be there in 30 days. And after 90 days, they told us that they don't have the money. They had they were looking to raise from some private equity, and that money never came
Oh,
through. It was not just us; they were investing in three other companies. So in all, there were four companies they
Wow.
were investing in. The mistake we did in that period was that we had built up some cash reserve for GTM, and in those 3 months, we thought, let's get ahead of the curve. We started
Yep.
hiring some people and
Yep.
getting things going, and we made some expensive hires, and we burnt our cash in just 3 months, whatever cash reserves we had. So July 23, I had no cash, I had no investor, and because I had not been focusing on my business was hadn't grown much in that period. Right?
Yeah, that
So
happens.
we are a small founder-led business, and if the founder is not focusing on it,
Yeah.
it won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we sort of that's a time where I
Wow.
think first time was when COVID hit, and this was the second time when I sort of questioned what am I really doing, and then we had to completely
Should I say
recalibrate.
to have stayed in services? Would have been easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even thinking I should have stayed in my job, which I was doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was clinically depressed. I had to go and see a
Yeah.
shrink and all, and it was a very
Oh,
tough
good.
phase. And from there, sort of rising through the ashes, we did a lot of new things. We launched our own mini cloud. We onboarded some customer. We were doing anything. So we knew we had some tech, we had some customers. Now how can we make more money? That was a
Mhm.
simple theme. Anything that would get us more money, we were interested in doing, but not going back into doing any kind of service, but anything that would where we could leverage what we have built. So we launched our own cloud. We got into some other adjacent services space, and it took us about 6 to 8 months to get things back in shape where we didn't have a burn, and
Wow.
we were
That's an
okay.
amazing story.
And
Did those big execs help out in this at all, or did you have to just go back to founder-led bootstrap?
absolutely,
Yeah.
we had to let go of all the hires we did in a very tough period. So
Yeah.
everybody we had to let go instantly because
That's hard.
our cash flow just couldn't sustain them.
Yeah.
This is all based on the funding we were raising. So I think one of the big lessons was
Yeah.
don't count the money till it's in your bank.
Yeah. It's never done till it's done.
No, no, it's never
Yeah.
done till it's done. And I thought, honestly, when it happened with us, we thought that it's rare and we were unlucky. But since then, I have met over 10 or 12 founders who've gone through something very similar, where people have signed up and then vanished, or they would like right at the end, the investor would go away. So it's not so uncommon, which I thought earlier. It's what has
That's
happened with
really
us is
interesting.
rare. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you take some of those lessons into the Yotta acquisition that says, well, we're going to continue to build the business, and if you want to do this, it has to be
Yeah,
like this? And
Absolutely. So
okay.
first thing was when first time around, the whole world knew we were raising money. This time around, five people knew we were getting acquired. So we
Yeah.
just kept it down to only on
Right.
need to know
Don't
basis.
tell everybody. Yeah.
Don't tell anybody. Only on need to know basis.
Right.
Shiv didn't even tell his wife till
Oh,
that
don't
happened.
get her hopes up. Yeah.
Don't get her hopes up. Yeah, I told my wife, but Shiv didn't. And that was one. Second, we just kept focusing on speed over anything else. Let's move fast. To the extent you would even pressurize the Yotta M&A team that things are getting lingering, and in
Yes.
between
Right.
they restructured the deal, so we even put more pressure on them. But I
Right.
think it was all good because they were also in an urgency. So the good part
Oh,
was
good.
both
Yeah.
parties wanted it done fast, and,
Right.
and that's how end to end we closed everything in under 3 months. So I think that's I don't
So you
forget
didn't use a
about it.
banker, and you
No,
have
no.
lawyers, but like,
We had
how
lawyers but no banker.
right. So how many employees does Yotta have compared to your
Oh,
50?
800.
Okay. So not hugely massive, right?
Right, right.
Very noticeable when you show up as part of the team. And now we have
Yeah,
two senior leaders,
yeah,
that were part
absolutely.
of
Yeah.
your company and all of that. And is there anything unique about an Indian company buying an Indian company there that's different than, I don't know, the stories we hear about acquisitions here in the States? Is there anything
I
different?
not really. I think the good part is, stories I hear in the US is people acquire companies and then just kill it off. Here, it's the
Ah,
other way around. Here, we are sort of
yeah,
doubling down and building it
yeah,
into an even larger business. So I think that's a good part. The synergy and the
yeah,
sheer intent of continuing to build the core Apiculus business while using the software to build a large cloud business. So it's a two-way synergy that way.
Yeah. And is there an alignment between the you and Shiv as founders and your team and the culture with the Yotta founder and team? Are they, let's say, similar cultures? They're just a little bit ahead, or
They are a large company. 800
okay?
people is not so small in India.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
That's
the
right.
large companies have their structures, processes,
Yes.
and systems. So we are sort of adapting to it. We were pretty
Okay.
startup. We
The
would
shock
decide
is
and
hit.
act.
Yeah.
Here it would go through some process. So yeah, so that's something new for us to learn and move ahead. But largely, from an intent and vision perspective, there's strong
Yeah.
alignment.
Okay. Well, did you have a little celebration with the company and with Shiv when the deal finally
Honestly,
got
we
happen?
were chatting chatting about it yesterday. We still haven't celebrated. We've been so busy. We've been so busy
Yes.
since the acquisition. It's been 2 months. I've been traveling like crazy. Shiv has been busy delivering some of these projects. We haven't had time to celebrate. We want to. We have full plans. Maybe before the year ends, we'll figure out some time. Yeah.
So you haven't even, I don't know what you might do in Delhi there. Think about a new house, or I don't know, win a prize. Some people, all that kind of thing. You're not even thinking about that right now.
No, definitely. House is definitely on our card,
Okay.
both for Shiv and me. We both don't have
Yeah.
our own houses, and in Indian society, property is seen as something of value. As in, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you've arrived in life. So
Yeah.
that's something very significant. And
Do you feel you've arrived as, as striving Indian
well,
technology business owner? Does it feel
I
like you've arrived yet, or is it
honestly, it hasn't
not
set in fully. I
right?
don't really feel very different. My relationship with money hasn't changed. I treat money as preciously as I would treat it earlier, which I think is a
Yeah.
good thing. So yeah, I've had some very interesting conversations, and I would examine my own behavior in certain ways, and and then I'd say, okay, things are good. I haven't let it go to my head, so that's a good thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's good. And you kind of have a transition period that it's not like you're out, you're on your own,
No, no, definitely.
staring
So
out the
while
window,
while
wondering what you do after this crazy, climbing Everest adventure,
uh,
of building your company. You kind of have a transition. You're busy and the rest, and
true, and
it's
honestly, while yes, we are, like in any acquisition, there are lock-ins and non-competes, and all those are there. But the interesting part is, in a way, Yotta is also a startup. It's a 5-year-old
yes,
company.
right.
They are building up, and the work I'm doing is pretty exciting here. So
Yeah,
yeah,
good for you.
as long as the work is having, see, if you look at founders, what are they really chasing? They're chasing impact. As long as
Yes,
their work has impact, it
right.
keeps them interested. So
Yeah,
even though I'm a
there
professional
you
here,
go.
I'm not a founder here. But if
Yeah,
my work allows me to be continue to be entrepreneurial in my work, in my approach, in my day to day work,
right.
and I can look back and see the impact I'm creating, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to do another venture, definitely. And if I do another one, I'm quite sure it won't be in tech. It'll be something more
Oh, isn't
around my
that interesting?
passions.
Yeah, you're cured now.
I'm very passionate about motorcycling and a couple of other stuff. I'll do something in that space.
Right. Well, I do think that is a characteristic of founders and entrepreneurs that I've known in tech for
Mm,
30 years
mm,
is that they're more concerned about changing the world and building a great team and doing amazing things than they are
yeah,
the phase of life that their company is in, that
mm,
startup craziness, the bootstrap craziness, the funded craziness, the scale craziness, or whatever. It's
mm.
almost like pick your poison along the way of how to do it. If you're making the impact, you got to put up with the things you got to put up with to make that impact.
Yeah,
So those are the founders that I see go the farthest. And an 800-person company is very different than that crazy band of 10 folks that got the company started and so forth. So it's just
abs-
different.
absolutely.
Right.
For me, like I spoke about it in some interview many years back. That somebody asked me that what's the one thing you want for your company. I said that I want my company to be featured on great places to work.
Oh, there you go.
I couldn't do that at Indicus. Maybe I'll do it at Yotta. But
Yeah.
that to me is somehow very important. That the team that
Yeah.
works with me finds this a great place to work. So,
Awesome.
and I believe in tech, only secret ingredient is people. It's people who make the technology. And if you take care of your team, you take care of your people, you will always do well.
Is that a services mentality that it's so people oriented in services that
No, no,
your
even
service depends on your people, or is that just
no,
a
even
your
I would
approach?
say even in product, because finally,
Okay.
ability is there. But for somebody to bring their best every day to work and deliver something which is world class,
Yes.
which is world beating, it needs a very different level of passion. And that
Yes.
passion will only come forth from your team if you take care of them.
Yes. And create a worthy cause, for
Absolutely. Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, Sunanda, thanks for sharing that story and the lessons that you learned along the way and how you did that. Congratulations on your,
Thank you.
recent transaction and transition. And you still got a smile on your face here and working away. That's very exciting to see. And thanks for sharing some of the tough parts of that journey. There's never not those tough parts. Is
Absolutely.
there anything else you'd like to share? Some advice for practical founders? Maybe those
Yeah.
services to software founders in India that are saying, I someday I want to have this product idea. I don't want to do it with funding. Practical founders in India who are making that
Absolutely. And
transition.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so as long as you have realistic ambitions, if you're not looking at 100 million $1 billion exits, and
Yeah.
you're just focus, I think two three things you have to think at. What's your domain expertise?
Yep.
If like for somebody like me who worked 15 years in the industry, me and my co-founder had a certain domain expertise, so we
Yes.
focused
Uh-huh.
firstly in that domain. And then we said that, okay, while the services business is going and it's sort of an autopilot mode, let's sort of go out and build solid product that has a strong differentiator, strong moat, and then take it sequentially and build on the customer side. If your product speaks for itself, it's not so tough finding customers. And
Yeah.
as long as you're not in a commoditized space like HR
Yeah.
tech, or some
Yeah.
of those stuff where there are hundreds of
That's
players
a
out
trick
there,
these days.
yeah,
Yeah.
you will find customers. And then just go at it. I think the only reason we succeeded after 11 years is we never gave up. I
Yeah.
think most founders just give up. They lose faith in their idea or their vision. Just don't do that. I think as long as you're at it and you're able to survive, you're able to manage, just keep at it. You will see success sooner than later.
So survival is a requirement, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
As you
that's
call
right.
the cockroach mentality, that's very
Yeah. Uh-huh.
important for
Right.
bootstrap
Yeah. They
founders.
got
Yeah.
it. Awesome. Well, Sunanda, thanks for spending time with me
Thank you
today
for having
to
me.
share your story.
Thank you for having me on your show. Love chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for watching this week's founder interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to hit like and then subscribe to my Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly videos for serious software founders who are building valuable companies without big funding. Check out my blog and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. And follow me on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going. See you next week.